Hello, and welcome back to the Murakami Companion podcast, a show inspired by the works of Haruki Murakami, where we analyze his body of work in its entirety. Today we'll be talking about After Dark, a novel from 2004, published in English in 2007. This is a book I have come back to many times. The story is told in real time across one single night, telling the stories of two sisters, a musician, the mafia, and the staff of a love hotel. One of the sisters, our protagonist, is at Denny's reading a thick book late at night. She doesn't want to go home, and a casual encounter with a friend of her sister causes a series of events that ends up with her helping the staff of a nearby love hotel in a case of violence, which involves a male member of the mafia and a Chinese prostitute that doesn't speak Japanese. In the meantime, we hear about her sister who is asleep, but something or someone seems to be watching her. A certain review of After Dark I read many years ago was the first time I came across the term mood piece. And I totally agree. Never in a Murakami book I have felt the colors, the sounds, and the smells more than in this one. Descriptions aren't overly detailed, but if I told you that this is a fast food restaurant after midnight and they're playing all comfort jazz music and there's a girl with a thick book, you don't need anything else. While Murakami often writes in first person, there's this masterful technique in After Dark where he writes in third person, but you still feel what the characters are feeling, even when it's not explicit, because of where they are, what they're doing, and how they react to other characters. When the musician friend enters the scene and tries to talk to our main character, you just know she will try to avoid the conversation. Because why the hell would she be there if not because she wants to be alone? The plot is beautifully thin. There's not much action, just things that happen that are tangentially related to each other, but the story is built through that net of connections. We are submerged into the world of the night. If you're a reader with an avid imagination that gets kind of absorbed into books and you read this by daylight, you might just forget that it's not the middle of the night in real life. The characters are very black and white. The good guys are good because they're good, the bad guys are bad because they're bad, but nonetheless all of them are very interesting, even the main bad guy. And opposite to Kafka on the Shore, that we have previously discussed in this podcast, yes, there is a mystery left for the audience to figure out, but this time it's actually kinda easy to figure it out. I'm trying not to spoil too much here, because this is just a great entry point for new readers. It's great from start to finish, it's not overly complicated, it's relatively short and it has elements of magical realism, but not too much. And this set of characters are very charismatic. This is almost like a comfort read, but it has enough action to keep the excitement up. Also, if, like me, you enjoy listening to the music reference in the book as you read along, this one has some really good tracks. One last thing I want to point out is that we jump between characters from chapter to chapter, but one of the B plots is this friend of the main character's sister who plays the trombone, and he has a rehearsal in the middle of the night in a basement. And you get this silly side story of his rehearsal, but not directly, but in bits and pieces. As readers, we never go into that basement, but we end up with the whole story through scattered pieces of dialogue between the characters. I thought that was a brilliant way to present a B plot. Anyways, you can get After Dark pretty much anywhere where good books are sold. If you want to support this podcast, or you just like cool t-shirts, or maybe some coffee mugs or art prints, we've got a few digital stores where you can find all of that and more, featuring the cover artwork for this episode, inspired by After Dark. There will be one design for each episode release of this podcast.